takes a lot of communication responsibilities, takes a lot of other responsibilities, does a lot of moving around, and then you got the outside factors. You have playing in Washington State. You have the noise of the crowd, you have the tempo, you have all these other things going on around you, and it. I don't want to say it's easy to get rattled, but kind of, just because there's so much else going on. So you just need to bring yourself to calm peacefulness, be where your feet are at, and just play the game.
I don't know if you remember this, but before the season, you were asked about what kind of effect you could have on a defense. And you said, "I've just got to do my job, trust people around me." Are you individually affecting games? I know it's just 2 games, but the way you envision it, or do you think there's more for you that you can do?
There's always more that I can do to help the team out. Whether that's another tackle, takeaways. Obviously, we already talked about. That's huge. And when we get a takeaway in that Washington State game, it's a completely different game. So there's obviously a lot more we can do, and me personally, a lot more I can do. Whether it's fitting one spot here, I can name plays that I screwed up on Saturday. And so obviously there's a lot of room for growth, and there's a lot of, sitting after the game, and you're always wondering, especially after a loss, what could I have done better? And you come in on Sunday and you clean that up, and now it's on to this week.
I missed your response about the takeaways answer, so I apologize for asking.
You're good.
You guys are still searching for one. How frustrating has it been? And, what can you do, if anything, to generate something like that?
I don't know if frustrating is necessarily the right word. But it's a need. You can't win games against good teams without getting takeaways. You can, but it's very hard. And we need those takeaways. And I was saying before, is the way to get those is by playing fast, playing confident, trusting yourself, and not worry about making mistakes. Everyone's going to make mistakes, and it ain't always going to be perfect. And it's how you go about your business, and you put enough time in the film room, and you see something, you go make a play. And I think as a defense as a whole, we need to start doing that better, and obviously we need to create turnovers and takeaways, give our offense the ball in better field position, and flip the momentum in the atmosphere.
Coach Fickle said he showed I don't know if he was in there, but he said he showed like 3 of the first 8 plays because of turnovers. Was it him leading the group, or who was kind of showing you that on film at a certain point after the game?
Yeah. Coach Fick was talking about it on Sunday, and it's it is what it is. What are you gonna do? The ball bounces one way or another. It's part of the game. You can't worry about that stuff too much. If we do the things we know how to do, the ball's gonna bounce our way, and we're gonna make a lot of plays and cause a lot of takeaways. And on Saturday it didn't bounce our way, and it happens. And now we got to get on to Saturday and move past that and get going and restart this train.
So with I guess not to dwell too much on Saturday's game, but what besides those 3 plays that were mentioned, but what other opportunities did you guys see for potential takeaways throughout the game? Did you notice any more in particular that y'all could have made to give a sudden change opportunity or whatnot?
Yeah, there's some of the trick plays that we ran. With trick plays, there's one option. If it's not open, if it's not there, if whatever it is you're trying to get is not there, what are you going to do? So as a defense, if we can stop those trick plays, the odds of them throwing the ball to us, fumbling, whatever it may be, increase a lot, and that just happens by doing our job. And then it's just little things, challenging receivers in space, punching at the ball, ripping at the ball with whoever's running it. So it's just little things that we got to work on and get better at, and we have to force those for our offense.
How much risk is there to emphasize too much on trying to create turnovers where maybe you're putting at risk fundamentals or technique, maybe in this tackle, maybe not stopping them where they need to for let's say extra yardage, but what type of risks do you have, and how do you try to reconcile between forcing a takeaway but also trying to stay fundamentally sound?
I don't think there really is a risk. I think if you stay fundamentally sound and you do your job and do what you have to do, you're going to create those takeaways. And when you know what you're doing and you know where you're supposed to be, you can play fast and the takeaways come. So there's not really a risk with it. It's just We need to play faster. We need to play better. We need to play harder, and force those takeaways.
What stood out to you about Darian Varner so far? I know he missed the spring, but he had a lot of success in Temple last year. I don't know if you had a chance to watch him. What has he added to this group?
He adds experience, obviously playing a lot of ball at Temple, and then he's a very he's a character. He's definitely a character. So when you're around him, when you talk to him, you know, there's always something goofy going on. Like there's always something that he's joking about, or he's just one of those guys that makes you smile. So he brings, in that aspect off the field, he brings a lot to the table, and just keeping it light. It's not so serious all the time. But then obviously, like I said, the experience, the strength, the physicality, the athleticism for a big guy. So yeah, I mean, he brings a lot to the table for sure.
For Georgia Southern, have you had a chance to watch the film? And if so, just I know most of the time it's a pass happy type of offense. What do you see on the film that would try to stress the pass defense for y'all?
I mean, it's, they have linkages to Washington State, so it's going to be similar stuff that we saw this past week, which is great for us, also a downfall for us, because we know where we were weak on Saturday. We know where we needed to get better, and so now flipping that over to this week, they're going to do what hurt us, so we have to correct those things. And it's like I said, it's similar stuff. It's getting the ball in the flat. It's going to be a little bit of tempo, but they are gonna run the ball a little bit more. So it's dominating up front and flying around on the back end.
Sure. It seemed early on there were a couple of issues defensively. Did you guys feel ready for the tempo, or did you guys feel off guard at the beginning before kind of catching the second?
I think we thought we were ready, but it was pretty clear that we didn't handle it the best, and it's we have to do a better job at recognizing it, at getting lined up, at getting the call, and at just executing our job. In the second half, it was calm down, take a deep breath. We've been through harder stuff than this, so it was just relax a little bit and do your job and just play the game.
And then going back to Georgia Southern, I know that they've had a couple quarterbacks had a couple interceptions. They've had a couple fumbles lost. Just do you foresee opportunities within within what they've done, that you will have opportunities to create takeaways along with what you all can do on defense?
There's against every offense, there's always opportunities. It's just seeing what they do in the film room, recognizing it off the field, and then in practice, obviously practicing it, working on it, and taking advantage of those opportunities on game day. And it's the thing about takeaways and turnovers is that you're not going to get 10 opportunities a game. Like, that's just not how it works. So when we get those opportunities, we need to maximize them, and we need to make them happen.
What did you see from the defensive line this week that maybe made your job a little bit easier?
On Saturday, you're talking about?
Yeah.
I felt like I was pretty untouched. A lot of the times they weren't getting to the second level much, which obviously cleans it up for myself and the backers as well. And so that obviously makes it a lot easier. And the D-line works. Like, they bunch of hardworking dudes, big dudes, physical, athletic dudes. And I have full faith in them that they're going to go out there and make the plays that they need to. And they did that, and we just got to be better on the back end and on the edges at keeping them contained.
Luke said after week one that he felt like the D-line was maybe one of the best position groups, after the Buffalo game. Obviously, they racked up some sacks and had a pretty good week too. How does that free you up? How does that help you, make those plays that obviously you've been able to make early in the season?
Obviously, when you slow down the run game, you force an offense to throw the ball, and that puts pressure on the secondary and on the linebacking core. But it's also plenty of opportunities. And so when the D-line does what they do and dominate up front, then it's on us to make them, to help them out, and not make them do all the heavy lifting and us make some plays on the back end.
What have you seen from Georgia Southern? I know this is a team that put up 40-something points against Nebraska last year, so they've proven they could do it at a big stage. What have you seen from their offense, just on film?
They're similar to Washington State. They have connections to Washington State, and so we're going to get a lot of the same stuff, similar type concepts that we did this past week, which is good because we just saw it, we just played it. But they're also going to attack us where we were weak, and that's where we have to improve. They're going to get the ball on the edges. They're going to go with tempo. So we just have to be calm, and we have to handle that much, much better this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this after the Buffalo game. Some of the fans were saying the stadium was too loud. How loud is it actually down on the turf at Camp Randall during the games?
I mean, you don't necessarily really know it unless you think about it and look at it. Obviously jump around, you notice it and you see it. But on the field, you don't necessarily feel it as much because you're in the game, you're locked in. So I don't, you love when it's loud.
Was it surprising that fans were complaining?
Yeah, because I didn't think it was. I mean, I'd rather have it as loud as possible. It's an advantage to us. So it is what it is.
You guys have kind of an interesting situation. I know you're focused on Georgia Southern. You have a Friday game next week. Does anything change with the routine this week to knowing that you guys speed it up for next week? No.
Nothing changes. We have to take care of business. We have to go one day at a time, one game at a time. And so all that's on our mind right now is Georgia Southern, and we have to win this game.
Hi, Hunter. How would you compare Ward against the other quarterbacks that you faced in your career?
I mean, he's a good athlete. It's obvious that he can run the ball, he can extend plays, he can move the pocket, and that's what makes him such a good player. That's what gives Washington State such a leg up on other teams. Is that he's not one-dimensional at all. So he can do a lot of different things, and it's what makes it harder for teams to stop him. And we didn't do a good enough job of that, and that's what led to the loss.
How would you explain to a non-football player, a non-athlete, the difference traveling 1,600 miles and playing a game versus playing a game at home or only traveling 100 or so miles? Like, how different was everything?
I mean, it wasn't super different. The only difference was the long plane ride, really. Everything else is the same, and Coach Fickle did whatever he could to keep the same exact schedule, same exact plan. So it doesn't really play a factor into winning or losing depending on how far away you're playing. It's just you got to come out and compete and do your job.
How is this week of practice compared following a loss versus last week following a win?
I don't think really anything changes because we weren't satisfied after week one. Obviously, we're not satisfied after last week. So nothing changes, and I think even after a win, when we do play really, really well, it's on to the next game. Like, you can't, the mindset doesn't change, and the way you come in and go about your business doesn't change. It's still, you have to get better. You have to make those mistakes so you can learn from them. So that way on Saturdays you can come out and dominate.
You talked about Georgia Southern obviously going to attack the weaknesses and the similarities between Washington State. What did you feel like are those things that as a secondary you guys have to shore up before playing maybe another pass-heavy team?
I mean, the discipline is the big one. We gave up 2-3 really big plays that were on us that we need to be more disciplined on. So I fully expect to get some type of trick plays, some type of stuff to test us on our eye control. And then tackling again and just getting out in space and the tempo. I mean, obviously we didn't do a great job of attacking that last week, and we have to come out and be better at that this week.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thank you.